Alright, welcome back to CW's Garage. This is our wiring information edition for factory fuse relay box. So what I'm going to attempt to do is use the factory relay fuse box. A lot of people have use it. You know, they use it for their LS swaps, right? I haven't seen anybody go into any detail about trying to use the factory relays, like repurpose the factory relays for your air conditioning fans and other accessories like that. So after countless hours of wasting my time trying to figure this out, I think I've got it pretty much figured out how you can use them for repurposing. Okay. Okay, all right. Just keep on trying. So what we need to look at first is, in order to even get to the point where you can test them, you need to get power to your fuse box. So I've just got a little power supply, 12 volt power supply, and then I just ran some little chintzy jumper wires over to the terminal here that would be hot all the time. That's coming from your battery, alternator, whatever, you know, that you're hot all the time right there. So you need that. You also need a ground. All right. On this, there's the terminal here. I wrote it down up there. A ground is going to be connector 2 B7. These have numbers and letters. You can't see them really in the there. I'll try to zoom in to where you can see it, but I don't know if you'll be able to. If you look down in there, there's like, you know, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, yada yada yada, A, B, C, D, E, F. All right, so you need to get B7 grounded. Okay, B7 will be your ground. Once you have that, give me that back. Okay, it's all right. B7 is your ground. That'll be grounded over to, you know, you can hook it up to a battery to do this, but I'm just using a power supply just because it's easier. I already have it, so I'm going to use it. But if you have just a battery sitting around, you can do it that way as well. So the one that I'm going to repurpose is, well, I guess I need to establish anything else. You need to hook up to power, all right? Another wire that needs to go to 12 volts is going to be ignition relay. You know, you need to get your, that would be like turning your key on your car, all right? So that's going to be, what is that? I think it's A9. Yeah, A9 on the C1 connector, okay? All right, that's the one that is on the, that isn't connected to your engine harness. C2 is the one that connects to your standalone. This is the one that would have connected to the truck, so you want to snip those off and keep those if you want to do it this way. That'll be A9. A9 needs 12 volts, okay? So we'll take this little jumper here and we're going to hook it over to where we ran our power from, say, our battery to the terminal over here on the front. So I'm going to go ahead and hook that on there. This is our ground. I just have it ground. I have the test light hooked up so that I can just show you, you know, whenever we go to do something, that it's actually putting voltage out, like you would have like your fans, you know. We're gonna just kind of keep the ground and the positive, the 12 volts, away from each other. What I'm using, which every vehicle is different, I have a Suburban harness, so mine has the rear defrost wiring coming out of it. So I'm going to use a rear defrost relay and fuse, okay? That's going to be used, I'm going to use that for my main electric fan, okay? It's got a good thick wire coming out, I don't know, like 12 gauge, 10 gauge wire, whatever. It's this purple wire here, all right? That purple wire is B8, I'm sorry. B8, connector 1, B8. I don't know what I did there. All right, B8. I think that's the one. Am I? Yeah, that's the one that's gonna have 12 volts coming out of it whenever we get the relay hot, okay? So in order to do that, we've got to ground it. Well, this wire right here is that's not A9, I don't know what the fuck. Just ignore that. All right, that's C1D9, C1D9. That's gonna be your ground trigger. So that would be the wire that's gonna come from your temperature sensor, or the computer will say, okay, the AC's on, send a ground to that so that fan will come on. But that would be the one that's controlled by your temperature sensor. We're just gonna act like we have a temperature sensor right now, okay? So I'm gonna turn this on. This is already grounded, so we don't have any power there. I'm gonna put the relay in. Okay, relay is installed. See, that's not hot. We don't have any power coming out of that. All right, let's take our little ground jumper here, hook it over here to this ground there, the one there. Where did we go? Okay, this is the one, your switched wire. You hear it clicking? You hear the relay clicking? It's telling you it's doing something. So we're gonna go over here to this purple wire, which was C1B8. That's your power out, coming from the fuse, going to your accessory. All right, turned it off, turn the switch off, turn the switch on, turn the switch off, turn it on. Okay, so I'm not going to show you how I'm going to do every one of these. That I'm only going to do a couple of them for now, because I just need, cooling fans primarily, and then this will also control like the air condition as well. I'm just going to wire it in like the factory would have wired it in for the air condition wire. You can basically do it that way. The hard part is determining which wires come out, because there's so many different variations with the wiring harnesses over the years. So that's something you will have to do yourself. You'll have to check for resistance or whatever, ohm them out and see if that wire is connected to the other side of the relay box, the fuse in the relay box. Okay, that's time consuming, and I'm not suggesting anybody do this because it's really just much easier just to buy a damn relay box, an aftermarket relay fuse and relay box. I have one, but for whatever reason I'm a glutton for punishment, and I wanted to try this out. I'm just giving you a little small breakdown of what you got to do this. I am no master at wiring by any means. I don't even really understand how it all works. I know how a relay works to a degree, but it just gets confusing sometimes whenever you're like, well, I don't know. You just got to turn your brain on the right way, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Anyway, ground that wire, you get 12 volts out of that one. As long as you got your ignition hot and your battery hot, this will be going to your fan, So that's about where we're at with that. I'm gonna start putting the harness on the Suburban, the standalone. So we'll get going with that soon. And then once we get that going, then we can actually get into the nitty-gritty of actually putting the OEM donor relay fuse box on there. So this is just kind of a little rundown, and then we can kind of go over it a little more whenever we get into the installation of everything. I'm sure we'll have to do it 3 or 4 times, or well, hopefully it's successful. If it's not successful, then I have a whole relay fuse box I can put on, which would be much easier. It's a nice Busman too. Yeah, that would just be too simple if I just did it the easy way, right? Neither here nor there. It smells like plastics, electrical plastics. I'm gonna get the harness hooked up on there and then figure out a mounting situation for this. But it'll be kind of difficult to test all of it until we really go to getting power in or from everything. There's a lot of steps in between here and there, but I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way so I could move forward with the next process. Enough yapping. Let me get back to work. All right, one thing I didn't mention that I need to do, but I hadn't done yet, is need to move one of the wires in this is the C2 terminal. This is the one going to your standalone, okay? Transmission gets its 12 volt power from the inside fuse box, the one like under the dash for the instrument cluster and stuff like that. It doesn't get it from the under hood fuse box, okay? So in order to get 12 volts to that, what I have seen other people do, I think Ugly Truck Experience goes over it in much further detail, and if you want to learn about wiring LSs, that's the ones to go to, is their channel on YouTube. I'm just a dude kind of winging it most of the time. Jerry and Emily, I think are their names. They're very detailed in everything that they put on there, so that is the ones to go to for that. If you want to see a guy that's just struggling like you might be, then you can watch me. But anyway, so what we need to do is on here, we need to pop these little doodabs out, and we're going to move a wire and get rid of a wire, because your rear oxygen sensors are, if you're doing it where you get rid of the rear oxygen sensors, is what you can do. Otherwise you need to find a 12 volt power for your transmission some other way, but I'm getting rid of the rear oxygen sensors. I don't need them, so this is how I'm going to do it. So the ones on this harness, it's different on each harness. I mean, not each harness, but a lot of different variations and stuff. This Suburban harness is it's not the same as what I've been finding online, so it's making it a little more of a struggle. I don't know if you can see that. We got you need to move the F2 wire. So F2 on the C2 harness. F2. All right, well, can't see any numbers, letters and numbers on this side. This side you can't, okay. There's number 2. There's F. So it's gonna be this green wire. No, I'm sorry, it's a pink wire. What an idiot. F2, it's two pink wires, right? I'm gonna put those and move them to E8. Well, let's find E8. There's an 8 right there, these 2 pinks right here. So I'm just gonna, just for the sake of doing this quickly or whatever, I'm not gonna cut those old wires out yet. All right, those are the ones that went to the oxygen sensors, okay? These are the ones that we need right here. F2 need to be in the E8 position on mine. It may be different on yours, so you need to verify that. But on this one, these are the wires I need. E8. Number 8, E. And they face a different direction on the other top side up there. So we'll stick that guy back in there. Stick this guy back in here. Anyway, this is just, I forgot to do that before. I was about to go throw the harness on the truck or on the Suburban, and I forgot to do that. You switch that around, and I'll just put some heat shrink on this and wrap it up in the other wires. It's not relevant, but just to show you, here's the rear oxygen sensor. That's nasty. I hadn't cut it off yet. I'm gonna cut it off and heat shrink all that stuff. If you're doing it right, you'd clean the harness all the way out, not like me. I'd cleaned the harness out on the last one, and I decided I wasn't gonna do that on this one. Let's put this, see if we can't find some resistance in there. Ohm it out, ohm it out. These right here are the power going to your rear oxygen sensor, but you want to verify that. Get your voltmeter, set it on the little Tony resistance doodad, and probe around. Look at that, look at that. See, that's telling us that wire right there, which is a pink, or yeah, it was a pink wire, it's just nasty now. But that's the one that was getting 12 volts from the factory harness, or the factory fuse relay box. Now it's going to be giving that 12 volts when the ignition is on to the transmission. Is that clear as mud? Probably. Anyway, that's just a little thing I forgot to do, and I forgot to throw it in here since we're talking about wiring today. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna get back to putting the harness on, setting it in place on the engine and everything, and then we'll go over some other stuff that is a little bit different, or some stuff you want to do, can do, you know, if you're using factory harness and stuff, like factory gauges and stuff like that. Like there was a 3-wire coolant temperature sensor, and I'm going to be using that. It's, I don't, like a Camaro or something. I'll put a part number down there for it, but I got the pigtail for it and everything, so we'll have to wire that in. I should have thought about it before I loomed all this up, so I'm just going to have to run a separate wire. I don't care. I'll just zip tie it to the other ones or tape it up and put it in some loom. That's neither here nor there. I'm going to get back to putting this on here, and then we will get back to kind of showing you some little ins and outs. So now it's time to start working on my favorite part, the wiring harness. Yeah, everybody loves working on a wiring harness. Anyway, it's hit and miss whether this works, but you get like a 98 Camaro temperature sensor. It's like a 3-wire temperature sensor, and it's supposed to work with the factory C10, C20, C30 gauges. So temperature gauge, it's close enough. Oh, you're falling off of your mount. Close enough that it should work. That's what everybody says, but then again, some people have trouble with it. There's obviously 3 wires. This blue wire down on the bottom, that's the one that's going to go to your temperature sensor, or your temperature gauge. I'm sorry, this is the temperature sensor. This goes to your temperature gauge, the one on the bottom, pin on the bottom. This one here is the one on, well, if you're looking at it your way, it'll be on your left, my right. So that one right there, that one is going to go to PCM connector. It will go to pin 74 on the PCM. We'll get our favorite tool out, get the little multimeter out. Where'd that go? Alright, put that on pin 74, I guess. Yeah, 74. Yep, pin 74, I'm sorry. Second guessing myself. Let's just do this. Alright, so we know that's the one that we need to put to on this harness. That one needs to go to the black wire. The factory one from like a Camaro, I think it's got different colors, like blue and black, or I mean yellow and black. I don't know, but from what I can tell, that's the one that we need. Some people say that also it doesn't matter, but I don't know how true that is. So I'm just going to wire it up by what I found online. So that one will go to there. I didn't think about it whenever I wired this, so I didn't run the wire for the dang temperature gauge, so I'll just run an external wire that'll be separate from the harness. Whatever, I'll stick it up under here, you won't ever know. Anyway, let's get this doodad wired up. Go ahead and crimp that on so I know how long I want this to be. All that fun jazz. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and, I don't think you want to watch me crimp wires, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. When I get done doing this, I'm gonna heat shrink that, run a wire for the temperature gauge, and then we'll start working on mounting the fuse box. So we will be back in a little bit. All right, the paint is dry enough that I was willing to touch it. So this is how I did these. I just got some flat stock, like 3/4 inch flat stock steel. Drilled a couple holes. I think that hole already existed. So I got that, and then I had this little spacer here that's covered, or that's coming up. There's like a standoff for the bolt for the middle here. And I'll show you how we're gonna mount it. Dang it, I knew that was gonna happen. Alright, let me get my shit straight here. Where'd the dang bolt go? That's the second one it's eaten, and I don't know where they're going. Don't know where that went, so let's just try again. Okay, please stay put. I don't want to fight you anymore. You know, no one wants that. Anyway, this is how I'm gonna mount it. It's nothing too professional or anything. It's just some crap you got laying around, you know. Yeah, lots of fun there. Yeah, it's just pretty simple mount. Just a couple little pieces. Oh, I did trim the side off of this. If you look down there, I trimmed the side off right here. So that was sticking way out and it was interfering with that. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is you need to be mindful of your hood hinge, because you don't want to rip the lid off of this thing every time you go to close the hood or open it. So I use rib nuts for these other two because those are pretty handy. You can see, I don't know if you saw it before, but I had an extra rib nut there because I put it in the wrong place initially because I wasn't paying attention to the hood hinge because it was folded up, and then I looked over, I was like, oh heck, here we go. So yeah, don't make my mistake and make sure your hood hinge clears your box. I left them kind of loose, so I've got room to kind of fiddle with them. It ought to work. 3 points of contact should be enough. Okay, see what we got here. I think that ought to be just fine. We'll find out. You know how that goes. Looks good on paper, right? Or in plastic. Such a funny guy. Okay, there we go. And this cover here, I cut the side of it off there as well. So this one is what your fuse and relay box are held in by. There we go. Yeah. So that goes there. Your wiring harness is going to come in here, and then I'll have the wiring harness that goes out to all the accessories and stuff. Will come in on the side over here. It'll come where I cut that piece out or whatever. Let's just act like there's a fuse box in there and put the lid on and see how it looks, right? Sounds like a good idea, right? If I can find the lid. Oh, it's on the dang windshield. Right there. That's not too bad. Once the actual fuse and relay box is in there, it'll keep this in position better. I guess I'll put the wiring harness up in here and see how it looks, and then we'll go from there, right? I know a lot of people don't like the factory fuse box, but I don't really give a shit. It is a means to an end, right? Alright, this guy will go here in the little clippy dude that holds him in place. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. ECU, we'll probably put it over here by the battery, kind of. I don't really like the idea of it being near the battery just because of the corrosion and stuff, but maybe I'll get like a gel cell or something like that, an AGM battery, something, a dry battery, so we don't have to worry about battery acid leaking out of the battery. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but in the meantime, that's just fine for that. That'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. And then this is for your throttle control and all that stuff. There's a name for it and I can't think of it for whatever reason. But yeah, that's what that's for. And I'm gonna use these factory connectors. I changed some pins around. I don't know why I didn't catch that information, but I changed some pins around these connectors. Maybe this one I changed the pins around, or that was this one. I moved some pins around to suit things properly. So those are gonna go there. And these all run to, you know, oil pressure sensor to gauge. Okay, this is OBD2, that's gonna go in the cabin. Check engine light will go inside. We have the brake switch for the torque converter lockup, cruise control, or yeah, cruise on. That'll go to the factory stock. Serial data, maybe, I think. There's a question mark, so. Fan 2 relay control. I don't remember why that's out there. Oh, that's gonna go over to back up into the fuse box, basically. That's gonna tell a relay to come on. That's the ground for the signal for that. That's for a tachometer. We don't have a tachometer, but maybe I'll add one to the factory gauges one day. Another cruise control wire, and that's a resume accelerate button, switch, whatever. Fuse, transmission, shift, lock. I don't know what that's for. I don't remember why I wrote that down. It's been weeks. Cruise control, set, coast, fuse, ignition. That's your voltmeter or your voltage gauge. 12 volts power to the PCM, run and crank. So that's good. This is a vehicle speed sensor. Don't need that because we put the tail shaft housing with that into it with a mechanical on there. This is another vehicle speed sensor, and then that's fan 2 relay control. I guess I could have repinned this around to where it went into that one and just used one of these ones that wasn't being used or something. That would have made sense. Man, I am not a smart person sometimes. Because using this whole thing for one wire is pretty lame, but I guess at least if there's some other stuff we want to control sometime in the future, maybe by the ECU, we'll have that. I don't know. We'll just loom them up, hide them. No one will ever see them. They'll be down in there. So there's a good chance I'll probably pull this out, get rid of all the crap that we don't need. But these are all gonna connect to shit too. Boy, this is really looking at this is really kind of stressing me out. I don't really think I want to do this. Oh shoot, how did they fit all this in here? I don't understand. I don't know how GM did that. 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's all the way seated in there. There we go. So now it's ready to run. We're ready to go. Let's hit the road, guys. So anyway, that's just a little dry fitting. I'll start wiring it up, and then as I wire it, I'll kind of break off and show y'all what I did or whatever, or if something that's relevant. Otherwise, it's gonna be kind of boring and long-winded doing this. The pertinent stuff, I'll catch that. So it's getting later in the day. I need to go in. So I'm just rambling now. So anyway, we'll see you. All right, so we are back in action. I got the relay fuse box cleaned up, the factory one from the donor vehicle. At least all the stuff that in order for me to utilize some of the relays for my AC fan or my cooling fans. Here's what it looks like with all that stuff taken out of it. All the wires removed that I don't need, all depinned. This is all stuff I removed. Just a mess of crap. I don't know, you know, lots of them. What I did was very time consuming, and if I have any advice for you, buy an aftermarket relay fuse box. Kind of one of those things where I just kind of wanted to see if I could do it. So this is where we are. Well, first I guess I should go over which wires I use. Okay, so if you're looking here at my little diagram, my little poorly handwritten notes, okay, all right, so for fan 2, coming out of this is coming out of your fuse panel, okay, and I'll hold the fuse panel up and try to show you. All right, C4A2, okay, this is a C4 connector right here, this green one. That was the one that went to like the lights and stuff like that. This is A right here, that's A2 right there. All right, it's 2 dark blue wires coming out of there. They're a heavier gauge, and I'm just going to leave them both there, and I'm going to splice them into a heavier wire, so it's pretty much the equivalent of running, like, I don't know, a 12 gauge wire or something like that, you know. That's going out to your fans. Well, in order to trigger your fans, your ECU's got to be, for one's got to be programmed for it, all right? But it's going to come from connector 2 from the ECU, and it's going to go all the way to your fuse panel, all right? So it's going to go to C1. This is C1. F7, all right? That's a black wire. F7. That's a green with a black stripe. I don't know why I put black down there. It is green with a black stripe. These wires were originally for your driving lights, okay? So this is going to send the signal from the ECU to your fuse panel to tell it, okay, it's going to send a ground trigger. So it'll trigger it to tell it to kick the fan on for fan number 2. Okay, that's simple enough, right? Then the same thing, I use the horn one, all right? Coming out right here, right there. C4A6. I used a light blue ones because they were thicker gauge than the green ones that were originally in there, okay? And then I don't know why this one's still in there. I don't remember what that's for. This is the fuel pump wires there. We're not going over there right now. Once you figure out what one you want to use there, you'll come over here again and we'll go, okay, well, let's see which wire is our trigger wire. Well, it's going to be C1A3. All right, this is C1. Here's A, and it should be these ones right here. It's 2 black wires. Yep. Fan 1. All right, so that's going to get a trigger from pin 42 on the C1 ECU connector. All right, that's the blue connector. C2 is red. Well, that's going to get that from pin 42. There's not a wire there for 99 to 02. I don't know about anything beyond that. You'll have to look on lt1swap.net, but you'll have to add one. Just whatever, you'll remove a bunch of them from the ECU, so you'll just add another one from that. All right, let me do a little demonstration on how I went about testing these.
All right, enough your broken record, okay?
Show you how I did that. All right, got my little power over here, 12 volt power supply, running over here to this terminal. All right, got that one there. Okay, this 12 volts here is going to go from that terminal, and we're going to hook up these 2 wires here are needed. This is the battery hot, and then this is your ignition hot. All right, so we'll just go ahead and link those 2 together. Well, we'll go ahead and kick this on. You hear it come on with some of the relays will kick on, not the ones that are controlled by your ignition power though. Oh, it's got to be grounded before it'll do that. I just left a few grounds in here just for demonstrations and ones we'll need or whatever. Ignition ground. Where was it? Yeah, this is a fan. That one's hot all the time. Like the relay is going to be hot all the time until it'll have power all the time, but it won't be on. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so that's the one going to the fan number 1. All right, so let's peel the wires back on fan number 1, which was originally the horn relay. Not anymore. It's not the horn relay anymore. Where did I do it? Test light. We're gonna pretend this test light is a fan coming on, right? Just trying to get the test light to where you'll actually see the light come on whenever we hit it with the power. All right, hook that up to ground on your power supply. Okay, so we're gonna take this wire here, and this is just your signal. We're gonna pretend this is the ECU telling it, hey, turn them fans on. There we go, it's coming out. Turn the fan on. Cool, we know fan number 1 works, or we'll get power. So we're gonna do the same thing with fan number 2. Fan number 2 wants to get some juice flowing through it. Do the same thing. Okay, we're gonna ground this one out. Oh, this one must be hot with the, it's gotta be hot with the ignition. This one's controlled by the ignition. See? That's fan number 2. Sorry, brain fart. But anyway, so yeah, that is one way you can use the factory fuse box from your donor, and you know, if this works for you, that's awesome. We'll be able to test it, like fully test it here, you know, hopefully in the next week or so, whenever we can get the rest of the harness buttoned up and everything. Maybe I'll get the exhaust on. I don't know how to explain it further because it took me a while of a lot of reading, a lot of hunting down the fuses and stuff like that, the fuse diagrams and all that whatnot. That's just a kind of a quick rundown. We'll be able to test, like I said, we'll be able to test it here shortly whenever we get it all hooked up. And yeah, you know, I'm sure I'll have to do it again because if you're not doing it twice, you're probably not doing it right. All right, day 11,743 of working on the wiring harness. Here we are. We got this bad daddy in here now. Okay, on your donor fuse box. All right, so this wire here, this pink wire, terminal is at number 9, so that's A9, I believe. Yeah, A9. All right, that's the one that feeds power out to your ignition. So this would have been, well, this is going to feed ignition power back to the panel, right? This would have been what went to your ignition for your HEI to give 12 volts and run and start. All right, so that's a pink wire on your C10, C20, whatever, 10 gauge wire, 12 gauge wire. It's a thick pink wire. All right, this is a thick pink wire. That's pretty intuitive. That goes together. I'm gonna leave a little slack so I can kind of put a little drip leg in it, and then we're gonna terminate it there. All right, I won't make you watch me terminate all the wires, but I'm just gonna kind of go over which ones you're using on your square body. All right, this red wire, there's 2 red wires. One of them went to the air condition, and then it went to this junction box here, and that one should be the one for the AC power. This one is going to be the one that goes battery power to your fuse box in the truck. All right, so that one's going to go here, battery positive. That's up hot from the battery. Okay, so that red wire goes to that red wire. And just to show you, you know what I'm talking about here, get the oil meter out here, see if we can't find some resistance in there. All right, so we're gonna hook this is gonna be hooked up to your fuse box where your battery cable goes on, right? Your battery lug there, whatever, it comes from the alternator or the battery right there. All right, that's where your fuse box gets its power, battery power. So you'll want to verify you're getting that these are connected. Oh, I think it fell off. Yes, it did. Okay, we'll try that again. I'll just hold it this time. All right, those 2 are connected. Those go together. Those are following the same circuit path, whatever you want to call it. Those are wired together. Your red wire there goes to that red wire. Okay, cool. This is an ignition ground, so I'm just going to run a ground wire to the chassis, and I believe this is also a ground, so you can never have too many grounds. Figure I'd keep those on there. All right, I don't know why this blue wire is here. I don't remember. There is a reason, but we're not going to talk about it. That's just another relay control for one we're not using, so it's not relevant. All right, this is for the fan number 1. So this is coming from the ECU. Like I told you before, I ran a wire, had to pin it out at pin 42 on the blue connector on the ECU. So this wire here is going to go to that wire. That's going to tell whenever the temperature sensor tells it, it's whatever you predetermine. You can set it whenever you program it or have someone set it. I'll probably set it at 187, whatever the thermostat is. It'll tell that first fan to kick on whenever the temperature gets that hot to that temperature. Okay, so we'll stick that out of the way right now. This should be fan number 2 control. All right, well, fan number 2 control is going to come from this one. This was the driving lamps, so that's going to trigger the relay for the driving lamps, which is now fan number 2. All right, and that will go out to these wires here, and those are going to go to the fan, the power wire to the fan, because those are fused here. So all I got to do is run a ground and a power. Easy peasy, right? Or that's going to trigger, yes, that'll trigger the power to come on out of there. Oh, sorry. Anyway, 12 volts out, and then 12 volts out for both fans. Okay, this is the fuel pump wires. These gray ones here, the only ones left on that C3 connector. You see how few I use on the C4 connector. I don't remember what this one's for, just ignore it. Let's just say you weren't doing the fans out of here. You would literally just need to hook up this wire, this wire, this wire to the factory fuse box if you just want to use it for the starter or whatever. But this is actually going to control the air conditioning and all that stuff still. It'll be kind of like it was whenever it was in the 2001 Suburban. So kind of like it, not all of it. This is the, I think, 152 connector. I don't remember, 150 whatever connector. There's a bunch of wires that come out of here that need to go into the cab. I don't have a tack, like I said before. Anyway, I'm gonna hook all these up and all that whatnot and what have you, and then it'll be a little while before we get back to all the way into this, because I need to do some more things before. But I just kind of wanted to button this up because this is the most time consuming part whenever you're just using the factory harness to do a standalone. So I'm just gonna do that, and I need to run my wires for my throttle pedal. I need to figure out the throttle pedal too, how I'm going to do it. But either way, I'm going to hook some of this stuff up, just kind of get this cleaned up. These are all the wires that aren't being used anymore, so that's cool. Oh, just a couple more wires you'll need. This is your coolant temperature sensor. This is going to go over to the coolant temperature sensor. Then we got oil pressure. Oil pressure right there. So that kind of light brown tannish color is going to go to this one here. So this purple wire, I'm sorry, I did forget that one. That purple wire is very important because that's the one that makes the thing go turns your starter. So that one comes to this pink wire. So pink and purple go together. It's a little bit different color pink, at least. No, it's the same color pink. So pink, that big ass wire is going to go to that little wire because now it's controlled through a relay versus being controlled by the ignition switch itself. So anyway, those will mate. I'm gonna get this buttoned up and terminated and everything, and then we shall see what it looks like when we're done. Okay, so on your donor EC, or your donor, okay, I can't talk.